Recording is now on. It looks like we have a problem with the recording of our last class because 2 nights after our last class, I logged on to get the recording and then send it to YouTube so that I can send the link for viewing. On getting to Microsoft Teams files, the recordings weren't there, and a few inquiries made me informed that the Microsoft Teams company appear to be deleting their recording, I think 1 or 2 days after it has been uploaded. So we have to make sure that we retrieve it from Microsoft Teams within 24 hours of the recording. So for last week's class, which is these courses, I'm going to send you the recording of another class during the same week. If not during the same week, then the previous semester. So the only thing different would be the kind of questions that were asked and then who was asking them. Last week, we were supposed to discuss definitions, but the definitions slide could not upload. I had to find out what was wrong, and I think it was something to do with the OneDrive storage from which we are accessing the slides. So somehow we've rectified it, and now we can enjoy our definition slides. So this is the definitions and their problems. And already we understand that definitions are one type of declaratives. We were discussing declaratives, and as types of declaratives, we were mentioning factual statements, value statements, definitions, and arguments. 4 types of declaratives. So we are supposed to study definitions with 1 full week because of its importance. So today we're looking at definitions. And here is a definition of definitions. Definitions are statements used to convey information about the meaning of words. Definitions. Information about the meaning of words. So the function of definitions is to convey information about meaning of words or things. So when we are talking about meaning, we have to talk about accuracy of meaning. Being accurate about meaning of things is essential in critical thinking. Being accurate about the meaning of things. Now, meaning is like, I want to compare it to the wheels. Now, meaning is like the building block of statements. When you are saying something, what you are saying contains different words that have different meanings. So just imagine you are saying something and some of the words contained in your sentences have faulty meanings or have faulty perceptions of meaning. So meaning is like the wheel or the tire of a car. If it is spoiled or down, then the car won't move well. And just imagine you are making an argument, and then your argument is premised on the faulty or erroneous meaning of one thing or the other. What happens to the argument itself? You see that the argument may be well constructed, but it is resting on a faulty foundation. You might be making an argument and someone just tells you, sorry, point of correction, and then corrects an erroneous meaning or perception you have. So that's how important it is. So accuracy, being accurate about the meaning of things is essential in critical thinking, very essential. Two types of meanings. We have connotation and denotation, two types of meanings. Connotation refers to the descriptive meaning of words. Example, dictionary definitions. The descriptive meaning, that meaning that can be described, that meaning that is written down, that meaning that can be pronounced verbally, that meaning that can be verbally pronounced or can be written is a descriptive meaning, a meaning that can be described at all. It's called a connotation. There are certain meanings that can't be described at all, like denotative meaning. Denotation is like the example of words out there. It's not the meaning, it's not the descriptive meaning, but the example out there. So instead of providing meaning, you provide an example. For instance, connotative meaning, descriptive meaning of a table. You can go to the dictionary and it tells you a table is so and so. That's connotative meaning. Denotative meaning. What is the denotative meaning? Someone just points to something that has the shape of a table. That's the denotative meaning. The person provides you an example, not a descriptive meaning. That's denotation. Denotation is like an example of a word out there. Now, another distinction we need for studying definitions is the distinction between definiendum and definiens. Definiendum and definiens. Every definition has two parts, the definiendum and the definiens. Every definition has two parts, the definiendum and the definiens. The definiendum is the word or phrase to be defined. What you are defining, the word or the phrase to be defined. Normally the subject of the sentence. You know what subject means, subject of the sentence. The definiendum is the word or phrase to be defined. The definiens refers to the rest of the sentence which does the defining. So the word to be defined is the definiendum. The rest of the sentence which is doing the defining is the definiens. For instance, in the definition, cat is a large, long-necked, ungulate mammal. The definiendum cat, or the definiendum is cat, and then the definiens is a large, long-necked, ungulate mammal. So the definiendum is analogous to the subject, while the definiens is analogous to the predicate in English grammar. Now let's look at types of definitions. We have several types. The first one, which is the most obvious one, is the lexical definitions, also called dictionary definitions. These are the definitions we find in dictionaries. Example, a lizard means any of numerous small scaly reptiles, typically having a moderately elongated body, a tapering tail, and 2 pairs of legs held outwardly from the body, comprising mostly terrestrial and burrowing species. So this is a definition of a lizard which you might find in a dictionary. It's a lexical definition. That's a typical lexical, comes from lexicon, and lexicon refers to dictionary. Ostensive definition. Ostensive definition is a non-verbal way of conveying the meaning of a word by pointing to the actual object or demonstrating the meaning of a word in real-life situations. A non-verbal way of conveying the meaning of a word by pointing to the actual object or demonstrating the meaning of the word in real-life situations. Now, color. Just look at color. Color words such as yellow, red, green, blue, they cannot be defined descriptively. I mean, you can't define any of these colors descriptively. I mean, how will you write down the definition of red? What are you going to write about red or say about red? There's no descriptive meaning. So it has no connotation. They can only be defined ostensively, which is denotatively. Also, words that denote styles of dance, for instance, Adowa, Agbaza, Azonto, and so on, are defined using ostensive definitions. So, various styles of dancing don't have descriptive meanings. They only have ostensive meanings. And ostensive meanings are examples of denotative meanings. We have said denotation is not a descriptive meaning, but an example, pointing to an example. Theoretical definitions. Now, definitions that originated from specific disciplines. Theoretical definitions. We call them theoretical because they originated from specific disciplines. In most cases, they also coincide with lexical definition because most of them are also written down in dictionaries. So it's possible for something that has one type of meaning to have another type of meaning at the same time. Examples of words or definiendums with theoretical definitions include inflation, which we got from economics, bipolar disorder, we got that from psychology, viral load from biochemistry. Example, viral load is a numerical expression of the quantity of virus in a given volume of fluid. So theoretical definitions are those kind of lexical definitions that we got from various academic disciplines. When you see the word or the definiendum that has a theoretical definition, you immediately recognize it because it originated from a particular discipline. Stipulative definition. Now, we use stipulative definition when we assign meaning to a word, either for the first time or for a specific project. When we assign meaning to a word, either for the first time or for a specific project, either for a first time or for a specific project, a meaning that you particularly crafted or created and give it to something. It's called stipulative. So every individual has the power to give something a stipulative definition. Example, the Ghanaian word frenemy means a person who is an enemy pretending to be a friend or someone who is a friend but also a rival or an opponent. Now, this is not a typical example of stipulative. The most typical example of a stipulative definition is that As a student, for instance, you went for research. You went to a village to research the income of its villagers. And then as you are researching the income, you want to write your thesis based on the research. And to begin your thesis, you needed to first of all write down the definition of income. And then you go to the dictionary, and the dictionary tells you that income is a fixed rate that is paid monthly and so. But that is the definition of salary, because none of the villagers has a fixed income paid once a month and then a month and all that. None of them have that. And that's technically the definition of salary, which you get in the cities. And so it dawns on you, or you realize that such a definition of income is not suitable for the research you're doing in a village about the income of villagers. The definition of a regular salary in a city cannot be used to define their own irregular income of varying amounts at different times, unpredictable, And then you have to come up with a stipulative definition of income. So you can first of all write, this is the dictionary definition of income, but it doesn't match my project. So I have to come up with this definition, which is that income is whatever comes from work that has been done based on an agreed payment and all that. And then you write that. That becomes a stipulative definition. Okay. Operational definition. Defining a term by describing a set of actions or operations that, when accomplished, will determine the entity referred to by the term. Defining a term by describing a set of actions or operations that, when accomplished, will determine the entity referred to by the term. Example: a solution is an acid if and only if litmus paper turns red when dipped into it. A solution is an acid if and only if litmus paper turns red when dipped into it. A substance is translucent if and only if, when held up to a strong light, some of the lights come through. These are operational definitions because they define or they describe a set of operations. Or they describe an operation that, when completed, produces or gives rise to the definiendo, what is being defined. Now, still on operational definition, note that an operational definition must specify an operation. An operational definition must specify an operation. For instance, the definition: a solution is an acid if and only if it has pH of less than 10. A solution is an acid if and only if it has a pH of less than 7. Well, is correct, but it is not an operational definition because it does not outline an operation, a procedure, or a step-by-step demonstration of a phenomenon. Okay, so let's come to what we call the essential definition. Essential, which is often called the real definition. An essential or real definition is the only definition that captures the necessary and sufficient conditions for the definiendo. All other definitions are unable to capture the necessary and sufficient conditions for the definiendo. So an essential or real definition is the only definition that captures the necessary and sufficient conditions for the definiendum to exist. Examples of essential definitions: a prime number is any number divisible by only itself and 1. A prime number is any number divisible by only itself and 1. Now, an essential definition is called an essential definition because you can go ahead and remove, you can look at just the definitions without ever seeing the definiendum, and automatically you know from the definitions what the definiendum is. It is only an essential definition that you can see only the definitions without seeing the definiendum, and then the definitions tells you exactly what the definiendum is. But any other definition apart from an essential definition, if you are looking at only the definiendum, you wouldn't be sure what the definiendum is. If you see the definition of a table or a chair, and you are looking at only the definitions, you wouldn't be sure if it's a table or a chair. Okay, a table is a four-legged wooden piece upon which we write and all that. And then you just see a four-legged wooden piece upon which we write. No table, no chair, nothing. And then they ask you, what do you think is the definiendum? Fill it in. You wouldn't know if it's a table or even a chair because both of them are four-legged. Even a bed is four-legged. Many things are four-legged, and many things are built from wood. So when you see a four-legged wooden piece upon which you write, up to 4 or 5 kinds of furniture in the house can fit into that definition. Okay, Desmond Kundua. So, okay, so we're saying that an essential definition is the only kind of definition where by just looking at the definitions, you automatically know what the definiendum is. But any definition that is not an essential definition, if you are looking at the definitions, you are not sure what the definiendum is. And then for the sake of clarity, essential definitions are found mostly in mathematics, rarely outside it. Essential definitions are found mostly in mathematics, rarely outside it, because it is only mathematics that supplies the kind of accuracy needed for an essential definition. You can see that the two examples here are from mathematics. If you are asked to just, if you are presented with only the definitions of the first example, any number divisible by only itself and 1, and then you are asked to supply the definiendum, of course you know what the definiendum is. If you are asked, if you are presented with only the definitions of the second example, any number divisible by 2, and then you are asked to supply the definitions, of course you know what the definiendum is. But outside mathematics, you are given a definitions and asked to supply the definiendum. It becomes more difficult. Okay, let's do some exercises. Determine the type of definition in each of the following passages. Determine the type of definition in each of the following passages. A house means this, and then you can see the image of a house. What kind of definition is that? Someone?
Operational.
Ostensive definition.
It's ostensive.
Ostensive.
With an ostensive
Ostensive.
definition.
Ostensive.
Ostensive definition. Ostensive.
Service ostensive.
All right.
Ostensive.
Ostensive. Ostensive definition.
Okay, that's fine. That's okay.
So,
The second question. So we're still determining the type of definition. The second question, water means a molecule composed of two hydrogen atoms bonded to one oxygen. What kind of definition is that? Water means a molecule composed of two hydrogen atoms bonded to one oxygen. Definition type. What type of definition?
lexical.
Yeah, it passes for lexical, and it could also pass for one or maybe two other types.
Exceptional.
Lexical, theoretical.
Practical.
Historical.
Okay.
Yeah, theoretical. Theoretical.
Exceptional.
Okay, that's good. The third question. A nuclear family is a living unit composed of a man, woman, and their children. Definition type.
Lexical.
Lexical.
Essential.
The lexical definition.
Lexical.
What of essential?
Lexical.
Yeah, it is lexical, and it is also what?
Exceptional.
It is theoretical as well, because it originated from sociology. Sociology gave us that definition. Now let's move on to the problems with definitions. Definitions have got problems. Definitions that fail to provide accurate meaning in several ways, such as being too narrow, too broad, vague, circular, or begging the question. Let's see some of these problems. We'll begin with too broad. A definition is too broad if the definition refers to objects or properties beyond those needed to define the definiendum. In other words, if the items denoted in the definitions go beyond what is needed to define the definiendum accurately, then the definition is too broad. Example, a toy is a machine. A toy is a machine. A toy is defined as a machine, or you are providing the definition of a toy as a machine. Now, note, there are many machines that are not toys. So the property machine is too broad to define a toy. So the definitions contains items The definitions refers to items that go beyond the definiendum. The items referenced or the items referred to by the definitions go beyond the definiendum. Too narrow. A definition is too narrow if the definitions fails to capture the full range of items needed to define a definiendum. If the definitions fails to capture the full range of items needed to define a definiendum, in this case, one realizes that the definitions lists fewer items than is denoted by the definiendum. Example, a toy is a tiny car used by infants to play. A toy is defined as a tiny car used by infants to play. Note, there are many toys that are not made in the form of cars, so the property car is too narrow to define a toy. I mean, if you define a toy as a tiny car, you are saying that all toys are tiny cars. Some toys are not cars, so using tiny car to define the toy is to list items that are fewer than is required to define a definiendum. Tiny car is just one part of toy. Or one segment. Let's go to vagueness. A definition is vague if there's no way of telling what class of fence the definition refers. Vagueness, if there's no way of telling what class of fence the definition refers. I mean, you don't know what class of fence the definition is referring to. Example of a vague definition. Democracy is a kind of government where there's freedom for all. Democracy is a kind of government where there's freedom for all. Freedom for all. The definiendum does not clarify who all refers to, whether it denotes human beings, animals, birds, crocodiles, and so on. Democracy is defined as the kind of government where there's freedom for all. So freedom for all. We don't know who the freedom is for. Is it the whole universe or just the whole planet or all in some part of the planet? I mean, all refers to nothing. Yes.
Sir, please, I want to ask a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Sir, please, what of a pen is any material used in writing? So with this particular statement, is it too broad or too narrow? I'm quite confused.
Come again. Give the example again.
A pen is any material used in writing. So please, is it too broad or too narrow?
Any material used in writing, which
Yes,
includes pencils, color brushes. So that lists items that go beyond the pen.
Okay, so too broad.
Yeah, so that makes the definition too broad.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So vagueness. Vagueness occurs when the definition does not refer to any particular class of items. The definition refers to something that is vague, too vague for you to locate anywhere. That's vagueness. Democracy, the kind of government where there's freedom for all. Now, all is open-ended. You don't know what's referring to at all. All what? All will see more examples of vagueness, and then you will see exactly what it is as a problem. Ambiguous. Ambiguous. A definition is ambiguous if the definition presents more than one possible meaning of the definition. A definition is ambiguous if the definition presents more than one possible meaning of the definition. Now, so you see, this is different from vagueness. Vagueness is that the definition refers to something you cannot locate anywhere. Something you cannot locate anywhere. That's a vague definition. But an ambiguous definition is one that presents more than two possible meaning, more than one possible meaning. More than one possible meaning. A sentence is ambiguous if it lends itself to more than one distinct interpretation. Examples of ambiguous definitions include faith is true belief. A triangle is a figure composed of three straight lines intersecting at three different points in which all the angles are equal to 180. Now let's look at why they are ambiguous. Examples explained. In the first example above, true belief could mean either sincere belief or a belief that is not false. In the second example, one wonders if each of the three lines is equal to 180 or a combination of the three lines is equal to 180. So you can see each of these examples is presenting more than one possible meaning. More than one possible meaning. You can see it's different from vagueness. This is what we call ambiguity, an ambiguous definition. More than one possible meaning. Vagueness is that you don't know how to locate the meaning, what is referred by the meaning. It refers to something you can't locate anywhere. Let's look at secularity. Secularity. A definition is secular if the definiendum appears in the definiens. If the definiendum appears in the definiens, or if the definiendum is cited as part of the definiens. In other words, repeating the definiendum in the definiens. Examples. Morality. Morality is to be morally right. Morality is defined as being morally right. I mean, you are recirculating the definiendum, repeating the definiendum in the definiens. That's a secular definition. Is the fallacy of secularity. You are supposed to be defining something, but you are repeating it. Metaphysics is a systematic study of metaphysical issues. Repetition. Pentagon is a plane figure having the shape of a pentagon. So these are examples of secular definitions. Secular because something is being circulated. Okay, begging the question. A definition begs the question if the definition is obscure, digresses from providing meaning, or does not help in shedding meaning on the definiendum. If the definition is obscure or digresses from providing meaning. Note the second one, digresses from providing meaning. In other words, instead of a definition to be providing meaning, it digresses into some other function. In other words, a definition could not even be providing meaning. It is doing some other job, like the job of a factual statement or a value judgment. And it is supposed to be a definition. Example, Jubilee House is the office where every Ghanaian would want to be. Jubilee House is the office where every Ghanaian would want to be. Is that a definition of Jubilee House? Is the statement providing meaning, or has it digressed from providing meaning to saying something else? The correct definition will be Jubilee House is the name given to the office of the President of Ghana. Jubilee House is the name given to the office of the President of Ghana. So look at the first one. Jubilee House is the office where every Ghanaian would want to be. That's not the meaning of Jubilee House. That is a digression into another kind of declarative. Let's do some exercises. Diagnose the problems with the following definitions. Diagnose the problems with the following definitions. A bird is an animal that has wings. A bird is an animal that has wings. What's the problem with the definition?
It's too broad.
Okay, too broad. Please explain why it is too broad.
No, it's
It's,
too narrow. Oh.
it's too broad because some insects too have wings. It goes beyond that.
Some insects have wings.
Yes,
Apart from insects, what other animals have wings? Apart from insects and birds, what other animals have wings?
Sir, please, bats have wings.
Yeah, bat. Is bat a bird?
No.
A bat is a mammal.
Yeah.
So that means
What about waiting?
yeah. So that means the definition is too broad. A human being is an animal has 2 legs. A human being is an animal that has 2 legs.
That is too narrow.
Hello.
A human being is an animal.
Okay, it's too narrow.
An animal that has 2 legs. So explain why it's too narrow. Background noise.
Sir, please, it's too narrow because there are different animals having 2 legs, such as the ostrich, the kangaroo, and many more other animals.
So, in other words, the definitions refers to items beyond the definiendo. If the definition refers to items beyond the definiendum, is that too broad or too narrow?
Sir, please, it's too broad.
All right. Whose microphone for this night?
It's big.
Can you put off your mic? Over Elsifi. Yeah, go ahead.
Said this human being is an animal that has 2 legs. I think it's too broad.
Okay, so just for the exercise, why is it too broad?
Sir, please. No, understand. I think it's not only human beings that have two legs. We have some animals also who also have two legs.
In other words, the definition refers to items that go beyond the definition. Okay, question 3 or the fourth question. So I will only ask you to open your microphone before you do so. If anyone opens his microphone without my permission, then I'll disable it. So question 3, a bird is a feathered animal that can fly. A bird is a feathered animal that can fly. Any problems with it? Some hands are raised. Elizabeth, do you want to answer? Or Mustafa? Or Ebenezer? Or Ellis?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, go on.
Sir, please, I think maybe it's too narrow.
Okay, explain why it's too narrow.
And I think that are only the animals that can fly with feathers.
Explain it better, because it says a bird is a feathered animal that can fly. So having feathers and being able to fly, well, what are you saying in connection with to both?
Okay, sir, so please, we have a lot of animals that is in the category of birds, and it's also a bird that feathers can fly. So that is one of the examples. That is the reason I think maybe it should be narrow.
So let's run this test. Do all birds have feathers? Do all birds have feathers?
Yes.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Can
Yes.
all birds fly?
Sir, please, not all birds can fly.
Not all birds can fly. Which bird cannot? Give us an example of the bird that cannot fly.
Sir, please, an example is an ostrich or a penguin.
Ostrich cannot fly. So when you say a bird is a feathered animal that can fly, it means the definition is not sufficient. The definition is leaving out those birds that cannot fly. The definition is leaving out those birds that cannot fly. When you say a bird is a feathered, you can put off you can mute your microphone. When you say a bird is a feathered animal that can fly, then The definition is not including those birds that cannot fly. So an ostrich is excluded. That means the definition is too what? Too narrow. It is too narrow because it doesn't cover all the birds. Philosophy is the study of the works of David Hume. Philosophy is the study of the works of David Hume. This one is very obvious. What is the problem? Elizabeth, do you want to answer? Mustafa? Or Josh? Evelyn?
Sir,
Or
please,
Sam?
the question.
Philosophy is the study of the works of David Hume.
Sorry, sir, I didn't hear that.
Philosophy is defined as the study of the works. Philosophy is defined as the study of the works of David Hume.
Sir, please, it's begging the question because it doesn't give the definition of philosophy. It just describes the author of the work of the study of the person studying the philosophy.
Yeah, but philosophy itself is a study. So when the sentence says philosophy is the study of, then it means it is still on the track of definition. So it wouldn't be begging the question, what problem is it?
Vague.
No, it's not vague. Now, who is David Hume? Is David Hume a philosopher? Is David Hume a philosopher?
It's secular.
Yeah, it's secularity.
Secular. If it is secular, does the definitions repeat the definiandum? Is the definiandum contained in the definitions?
No.
So what's the problem with the definition?
It's too narrow.
All right, so explain why it is too narrow.
It's too narrow because it only talks about the works of David Hume, which I assume to be a renowned philosopher.
Okay, so it refers to only the works of David Hume, which is just one philosopher, and it ignores all the other philosophers. So that makes it too narrow. The definitions does not refer to items that are sufficient to define the definiandum. A submachine gun is a gun that shoots like a machine. A submachine gun is a gun that shoots like a machine. This one is so quite obvious.
Circulatory. Secular.
Secular.
Okay, so
Secular.
I'm asking us an emotion that generally prefer to sadness. Happiness is an emotion that people generally prefer to sadness. What's the problem?
It's begging the question.
Okay, good. Explain why it begs the question.
It doesn't provide any, like, it doesn't define the happiness per se. It just talks about it just says that like people prefer it over sadness.
Yeah, it digresses.
Okay, good. It digresses from providing the definition or the meaning of happiness. That's beautiful. That's great. So I think this is the end of the class. In our next class, we'll be treating the normative and the empirical. The normative and the empirical. Any questions before I stop the recording so that the recording can be saved?
Hello, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Because I'm still confused about the example 1 and 2. That's a bird is an animal that has wings. Is it too broad or too narrow?
A bird is an animal that has wings. So there are certain questions you need to ask yourself so that you can be sure of the answer. A bird is an animal that has wings. Does every bird have wings? Is it every bird that has wings? Is there any bird that has no wing?
All birds have wings.
Come again. I didn't hear that. Is there any animal that has no wing?
No, sir.
Okay, so all birds have wings. Now, is it only birds that have wings?
No.
Is it only birds that have wings? Is there anything that is not a bird that has wings?
Yes.
Like what? List them.
An example is a flying fish. A fish is not a bird, but we have a species of fish that has wings.
Insects do have wings.
And fowls.
Any other animal that has wings?
Bees.
These are what? Insects. So insects have wings, bats have wings. When you say a bird animal that has wings, you are referring to something that goes beyond. And that makes it. Okay, so we saw there are non-birds or other animals that have wings, bats, insects. And probably fish. So when you say a bird is an animal that has wings, the definition is referring to items that obviously go beyond the definiendum, and that makes the definition too broad. So the definition that a bird is an animal that has wings is a definition that is too broad. Question 2, a human being is an animal that has 2 legs. So you ask yourself the first question, do every human being have two legs? Naturally speaking, yes. Is it only human beings that have two legs? Are there any other non-human animals that have two legs? Yes, you have kangaroos.
Oops.
That means that the definition a human being is an animal that has two legs, the definition refers to items that go beyond human beings. And that makes the definition too broad. All right, so any other question? Any other question?
No.
I'm going to stop the recording.